YouTube. It's Will from Will Development. It's my 260th weekly update. Now, this week was the last heavy week of training for me, which was, as always, going to have some ups, going to have some downs. I would say Monday was definitely an up. Did I do my squats on Saturday? I think I did my squats on Saturday. I had birthday squats on last Saturday. I'll talk about that for a second. I ended up doing 27 reps at 203 pounds. I weighed at 203 pounds on Saturday morning, and I put that weight on the bar, and I was only supposed to do 26 reps, but I did 27 because fuck you. And just to show people that I don't quit just because like it gets tough, as I've been accused of doing in certain situations, I only quit when there's literally no point in continuing, and it won't get me anything except potentially injured. There's no point to pushing if it's just going to injure you and not gain you anything. It's all risk versus reward, you see. And doing one extra rep at 203 pounds, I knew, the worst case that could happen would be I would fall over and it would get caught on the safeties, which were probably too low at the time anyway. But obviously nothing bad actually did happen. Plus, I felt like 1 or 2 reps might have been a little high, so I wanted to kind of, squash any kind of, it was a little high. Gonna upload that footage to the channel. Just as a separate thing, I'll probably release it Monday or something like that. Just whenever. It's nothing important, but it is a cool little video. It took like 3 minutes for me to get through all of it. It was a hell of a conditioning set, let's just put it that way. Couldn't do that every week, let's put it that way. Maybe I could. I probably could if I really wanted to, but not worth doing it during a competition prep. So Monday, I decided not to do too much squatting and ended up just doing some very, very light warm-up stuff, things like goblet squatting and some hip abduction, and I think I ended up doing a little hack squat afterward, but I ended up doing my last runs with the Zercher and managed to work up to 305, which is 15 pounds under comp weight, for one run after another of 60 feet apiece, and they were each about 10-second runs. So I was very happy with that, especially since when I put the thing down after the second run, the back-to-back run, I realized I hadn't actually tightened my belt, so I was doing that basically totally loose, totally raw. So it was, other than sleeves, I guess, and maybe a soft belt if you want to count those kinds of things. So, my confidence with that particular event has definitely gone up. Obviously, I have not practiced the chain drag, but a very limited strategy going into it. I'm just going to do my best and hope that my conditioning makes up for my lack of competence on the actual implement. Let's see. Tuesday was press day. I was feeling really good going into it. I ended up doing I got a PR at 180. I ended up doing it for 3. And because I did that, I felt really good. And I said, let me just jump up straight up to 200. And I went for 200, and I tried it about 5 or 6 times, and I missed it every single time. And I got really close a couple times, but it just wasn't going to happen, and that's okay. I knew going into this that wasn't going to happen. And I talked about this on one of my Instagram posts, at Will Development, by the way, if you don't follow me, where I talked about the reason I finally entered a weighted class, even though I could have totally entered the novice class, because for all intents and purposes, I am a novice still. And I could have entered it, and honestly, I would have done pretty okay, probably honestly top 5, because the weights in this particular novice class, I could have done them without working towards them, the clean and press on the axle is 180, so, knowing I can do that for 3 means it's going to put me well above a lot of the people in the novice class that probably aren't even going to be able to do 1. Same thing on the deadlift, same thing on that stone. The stone they're doing I think the stone is actually 180 as well. So, that's I can do a 250 sandbag, that's nothing to me. The Zercher yoke they're doing is like 280 or something like that. I could run that On a bad day, I still run that in 10 seconds. And their chain is like 200 pounds instead of 500. And then their squat is only 290 or something like that, and mine's going to be 350. So I mean, I could have done that, and I could have entered it, and I could have, gotten top 5 probably without much practice. I wouldn't say I'd podium because there's always some trophy hunters there. There's usually at least 1 or 2 300-pound guys that have no fucking business in novice but enter novice anyway just to make themselves feel good, because it either is actually their first competition, which honestly I can give you a little slack for that one, or they're just trophy hunters that don't want to go into the super heavyweights because they would zero every event, but they're still strict pressing 200 pounds for 15 reps. You know what I mean? There's those kind of guys. So I probably wouldn't podium, but you never know. I feel like I'd probably place pretty well if I'd gone into novice this go around though. But there would have been no point to that other than like a comeback, and it wouldn't be pushing myself in any way. And honestly, I've been in 3 this will be my 3rd competition, my 2nd actual strongman comp, and I've ended up losing points or just plain zeroing a press event in every comp so far. So far it's 2, but when I did the Strength Camp Challenge, I ended up failing the very last event because it was a clean and press for 135. And I mean, my God, if I could go back, just me today, and do that event, I would smoke it. I mean, it was 135 for 5 reps. I can do that for 10, maybe even 15. I can do it for 10 strict. Like, push press, I could probably do it all day. And then went to Miami's 2 years ago, and the log was 200. And now I'm very confident that I could clean and press 200-pound log at least once. And then now I'm doing an axle, it's 230, and honestly, if I just clean the damn thing, I'll be pretty happy. And get close to pressing it. We'll see what happens. You really never know. But part of the reason I decided to go into a weighted class is because, to get back to the main point, if I'm not pushing myself, then what's the point of it? Why would I enter? Just to get a trophy? I mean, there's no respect in that. Going into a class and just stomping everybody just because you can. Not because you're coming back from an injury, or just, or just getting your feet wet because you're not sure if you like the thing or not, that sort of thing. I mean, there's no point to that. It's kind of like going from one, it's like winning the world championship in a federation where nobody's really that good in it. It's like, wouldn't you rather go into the one where everybody's really good and you're considered the mediocre one? That's what's going to push you harder. And it's sort of the same situation here. I remember going into Miami's, the best I had done on the log was like 160, I think, or 170 at the time. And then, going into this comp, the best I've done is like 195 on an axle, even though I'm supposed to be doing 230 for reps. It's always going to be chasing that little bit extra, and I think that's a good thing. I think that's what's going to keep driving me forward. And I mean, just going through this particular prep and this whole training block, doing it all myself, learning what I've done wrong. I can see what I've done wrong, what I could have done better. Certain things I wouldn't say I did totally wrong, but I definitely see things I could have done better. Let's put it that way. And then there are things where I can totally see, like, yeah, I just did that wrong. I probably could have predicted this, working out the way it did, that sort of thing. And then honestly, with my injury, I can tell that I was a little ambitious. I probably should have taken a little more time off and really focused on rehabbing that. Because right now I'm okay. I walk around at about a 2.5, maybe a 3 level of pain, but sometimes if I put myself in just the wrong situation or it's just the wrong day, I mean, it spikes up to an 8, it's bad. It's really bad. And I have to just sort of hope that when it comes time for the comp, that doesn't happen to me. Or that I can just block it out and just keep moving. So I talked about it on my Instagram, but that's one of the reasons why, that's the biggest reason why I actually entered a weighted class. Plus, eventually I'm going to be in a weighted class, so I figured I might as well take a pretty low-stakes competition, one I'm not completely vested in, let's just put it that way. It's not that I'm not taking it seriously, it's just that I don't this one, there's nothing riding on this one. There's no nationals invite. There's no, this is just me still fighting with the numbers. I knew I wasn't going to beat anybody. I'm just trying to beat the numbers this go around, and then hopefully my next comp I'll actually be looking to be as competitive as to think about podiuming, that kind of thing. This go around, it's just get back in it and get used to dieting and things like that. So that's the whole point of this comp, and I figured I'd talk about it now because next week I'll be down south. I will be recording my video after weigh-ins, and we'll go from there, and then enjoy my yearly update shortly after that with a little bit of comp footage. And deadlifts went okay tonight. I worked up to 445, but it wasn't as tight as I really wanted it to be. Other than that, the moral of this week is you should be shooting for something you can't attain, because shooting for something you can't attain will push you harder and get you further than putting a reasonable goal. I think it's always better to have kind of an insane goal, I want to be a billionaire. Because if you say you want to be a billionaire and you actually mean that shit, you're going to work so hard to become a billionaire. Worst case, you'll end up being like a multimillionaire. You know what I mean? You may never hit that billionaire goal, but learning the skills, making the mistakes you need to make, will make you the person to be the billionaire. So I know going through what I'm going through right now, and having gone through the last 10 or 11 weeks, the mistakes I've learned or made and the lessons I've learned from those mistakes are what's going to make me a better competitor, and I know for a fact that the mistakes I'm going to make next Saturday are going to make me an even better competitor, and hopefully better share some insight to people. Yeah, that's about it. So, the real moral is don't be afraid to make mistakes, because that's the best way to learn. And if you're afraid to learn, then what's your excuse?